In this video, I'm going to try to help you when you get overwhelmed with your hobby. There are unfinished projects in basements, closets, boxes under people's beds, all over the world. And they are sad because they are unfinished projects. And part of my job is to try to help you get these projects finished so they can go to the glory place of being a finished project. That sort of fell apart at the end there. I do a lot of videos about painting motivation, hobby motivation on this channel. Years ago, I did one about how if you're just not in the mood to paint, then maybe switch over to build mode and see if that helps. And if you're not in the mood to build, switch over to paint mode, see if that does the trick. Pachow. But that's really only helpful if you are just trying to get some hobby progress done, no matter what it might be. Sometimes you are trying to get a specific hobby project finished. You are trying to get it completed, and just switching to another project or switching to a different just is not going to do the job. You need to get this done, but you can't because there's so much and you've just become overwhelmed. I assume there's a comedian or somebody somewhere who, as I've heard this before, it's weird that you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but no one ever seems to just be whelmed. Like, no one's ever asked me how I am, and I've ever just like, I'm whelmed. You know, being overwhelmed with a project, we've all had it happen. It's generally either the project is very large, and I can mean that in a couple of different ways. Either it is a physically large model, like maybe a big, an Imperial Knight or a Glotkin guy, from the Age of Sigmar, or some other big physical model, or it's a lot of models all in one project. It's a squad of 20 or 40 or something like that. And just sitting down and looking at it, I don't want to say chills you to the bone, but it definitely makes it so that you get locked up, you can't produce, you can't hobby, and you just can't see yourself being able to ever finish it because it's such a big project. And that is the definition of being overwhelmed. So you're saying, okay, well, Uncle Adam, what is it you do in this situation? Well, for years, I did nothing is what I did. I just gave up. I have still, to this day, some projects in the basement that aren't finished, and I kind of wish they were. But I, at this point, have a lot of other projects that I'm getting finished all the time, so these kind of get pushed to the back. But this is kind of the hall of shame to some degrees of unfinished projects. And what I have discovered over the years of saying, at this point now, because of the channel, I can't just decide I don't want to do this, I'm overwhelmed, I need to get it done for a video or for whatever. What I've discovered is that, and this is true in a lot of situations, it comes to kind of breaking things down into small pieces. People always tell you, well, if you take like some big project and break it down into small pieces, then that's, that helps you to move along and to get things finished and whatever. And that's great in theory. And it is a broad theory that can be applied to, mowing 6 acres of lawn or going to the moon. I mean, there's a lot of in between in that situation. But as it specifically relates to hobby progress, painting, that kind of stuff, there are things that you can do when you are faced with a very large project which actually get things done, but can kind of bypass that sort of overwhelmed feeling that you can get. If we're talking about building, one of the things that I find that I do is that normally I build the models and then I go through and get rid of the mold lines. But if I am overwhelmed with just the number of models and how many models, how many pieces there are per model and how much work it's going to take, and it just kills my motivation, what I do is then I kind of switch gears, but still within the same project. And what I do is I get organizy. Now, I'm not generally an organized person, but if I can take what I should be doing and kind of put it on the back burner, but still work towards that project by organizing, then I become an organized person for just a short, brief moment in time. Don't get me wrong. But what I've done in the past with big projects is I will go get a whole bunch of little plastic baggies, especially those little half-size snack ones for kids, not the big tall sandwich ones, and then I will start clipping bits. And I will say, okay, here's all the bits I need for this guy, clip, 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 put him in a baggie. Here's all the bits I need for this guy, clip, clip, clip. Normally when I'm building a project, I'm looking for the part, gluing them together, building a guy, go on to the next one. But here, I'm just clipping. So I'm barely even hobbying in my mind. I'm just clipping and I'm putting them into bags so that when I do finally get whelmed and I get over the overwhelmed part, I can just go back to, okay, I'll open this bag, boom, put this guy together, go to town. Another thing you can do is just get rid of the mold lines before you put the model together. I generally always put the model together and then do the mold lines. But if I just decide I can't, I'm going to just work on mold lines. I'm going to maybe have a Netflix thing going on or, audiobook or podcast like I normally do, but you may want to do TV. It's up to you. I'm not good at TV and also focusing on something, but doing something that's kind of distracting you from the sort of anxiety of the project and just allows you to do some sort of busy work doesn't really feel like you're actually doing the project, but you are. You're actually moving things forward and helping your future self get things done quicker. Now, let's say you've already built the project, you've got it all put together, or maybe it's in sub-assemblies or whatever, but now you need to start painting. And now is the point when the overwhelmentation, that's a word, sure, it takes over. Well, what happens is that in that situation, what I do is I say, okay, I'm looking at this huge model, whatever it might be, and I say, I'm just going to work on the belt. I'm not going to paint today. I'm going to paint, I'm going to get, pigment onto brushes and I'm going to do stuff and whatever, and it's going to be, wet palette and all that jazz. But I'm just going to work on the belt. I can't handle the rest of this guy today. I'm just working on the belt. So you sit down and you start working on the belt and you get your brown or whatever color you're going to do and you do some stuff and you do a wash and you do maybe a little bit of highlight or some dry brush and stuff like that. And at least now you've got the belt done. And maybe that's good enough. You did that. Maybe it took you half an hour. Maybe it took you 5 minutes. Depends on the size of the model and how fancy you want to get. But at that point, once you're done, now maybe you are now at least a bit more motivated to go, well, I got the brown on the palette already. I might as well do the boots, because it would be wasteful otherwise. And you can convince yourself that way. Or maybe just sitting down and just painting something very simple and kind of compartmentalized. I'm just working on the belt today. That's all I expect out of myself is just working on the belt. At the end of that, you can be like, well, I can do this part now. Or maybe you won't even have a thought and you'll get done with the belt and just be like, well, now I'm going to do this and now I'm going to do that. And you've kind of kickstarted yourself to get moving. When you get overwhelmed, you have to kind of try to figure out a way to trick your brain into saying, okay, well, I need to get this done. I have a deadline. Maybe you're a commission painter. This is really problematic for commission painters when they are not in the mood and they're overwhelmed on a project. Commission painters have to sit down and figure out how to compartmentalize everything. So when you do this, whether you're a commission painter or not, but you have a deadline you got to get done, it's important to sit down and say either, all right, I'm going to work towards the goal, but do it in a different way. I'm going to clip and put them in baggies so I've got them all organized. Or I'm going to just work on mold lines or something like that. Or if you're in paint mode, I'm just going to paint that belt, or I'm just going to paint the guy's gloves, or I'm just working on the sword. Just going to work on the sword, see how long I can go on it. Maybe I get it done in 20 minutes. Maybe I get it done in 2 hours. Maybe I get real fancy with the sword for some reason. I don't know. But at least doing something, picking a small goal within that project that has overwhelmed you and working towards that goal can help you, at the very least, move forward with your progress and possibly even jumpstart your motivation and get you further along down the road towards completion.